The first Arms Week for Renegades is here, which gives us access to 3 limited time weapons, along with 2 Crucible game modes called Medieval and Rumble Hardware. Alongside this, guys, we also have a quest line from Ada that gives us access to 3 new volatile mods that we can take advantage of over the next week. This event is basically the same as all of our other Arms Week events, but for those who may have forgotten how these work, here's a little overview. When you log into Destiny this week, you'll have a quest from Ada called Initial Calibration, which is going to unlock our new volatile mods and will set us up with this event. Now, along with the main quest for the week, we also have the event page where you can see the different daily and weekly challenges that will net you event tokens to use in the reward shop. Now, these tokens can be used to buy things like materials, engrams, or you can even buy the 2 new event weapons directly from here. Now, one weapon is called King Orfeo, which is an arc precision frame bow, and the other is an aggressive frame void glaive called the Heron. Now, there is one other weapon you can get via the event, that being the Gizmo Weft, which is a strand micro missile grenade launcher. Now, keep in mind though, you cannot directly purchase this from the reward shop. This is just a random drop via Arms Week engrams only, much like Submersion was in Edge of Fate. Now, we also have the free event reward track, which also grants us an engram, some miscellaneous materials, an emblem, a few reroll chips, along with holofoil drops of the Heron and King Orfeo. Now, moving on to the meat of the event, the quests and the volatile mods. First, you want to head to the shooting range to talk to Ada for the initial calibration quests, which you can then track in your quest inventory or from the event page itself. Now, once you interact with her, she'll give you the option between 2 versions of the same new bow. Now, to be quite honest, guys, I don't know what the difference is between either of these. Both are tier 5s, and neither one of them have their perks listed. Now, once you're done with your selection, your quest will update you and will task you with completing 2 other quests, one being Prototype Tuning Magazine, the other being Prototype Tuning Traits, which will be sitting in Ada's inventory. Now, Prototype Tuning Traits will task you with completing Crucible matches. Now, when you play Arms Week hardware, this actually grants you more progress. Now, for Prototype Tuning Magazine, the actual name is Prototype Tuning Bowstring, and for this one, you just need to defeat combatants within the portal activities, but using a bow grants you more progress. Now, while you're here, you can take a look at some of the other things you can get from Ada. You can spend combat telemetry, which is another Arms Week currency and is acquired just by completing activities. It costs 40 combat telemetry to buy a distorted Arms Week engram and 65 combat telemetry to directly purchase King Orfeo. Along with that, there's a whole slew of other bows: Rankateur, Whistler's Whim, Lunalata, Animesis, Hush, Lethophobia, Tripwire Canary, and Under Your Skin. These can be purchased directly from Ada, with each one costing 25 combat telemetry. However, one thing to note here is that there is a glitch for some. Like, for whatever reason, some of these you cannot spend your telemetry on. Now, Bungie is aware of this issue and has said more information will be provided when available. Now, should you get these bows? I would say no, not really. Be quite honest with you guys, now that tier weapons exist, don't get me wrong, like, I love Rankateur. I think Under Your Skin at one time was one of the best bows. Animesis is a really solid one too. But these days, I'm just a hoe for tier weapons only. Now, back to the quests. For the Crucible matches, you can just run a couple of hardware games, as when you complete those, you'll get 15 combat telemetry, along with progressing the quest to 60% after 1 game. And for this, you just need to run 2 total. For Prototype Bowstring, you can simply just run a solo ops, and in some cases, you'll complete it even before you finish. Hell, if you want, you don't even have to finish the activity. You literally just head right back to Ada. However, I would recommend completing it, as you are rewarded 25 combat telemetry as well, which is pretty solid. Now, once you complete these, you can then head back to Ada, who will give you some more combat telemetry for each of these completed quests, along with granting you the first volatile mod, that being Shattershafts, and progressing the initial calibration quests. Now, from here, you just need to equip Shattershafts onto any legendary bow and then talk to Ada once again. This will complete the quest and give you access to 2 more quests in Ada's inventory. You've got in-flight benefits, which says to earn points by quickly defeating combatants in portal ops. Dealing final blows with weapons equipped with volatile mods grants more points. And this will unlock the volatile mod Jumpshot. Now, the other quest is called Tungsten Bowstring, which says that you earn points by defeating targets with precision final blows in portal activities. Using weapons with volatile weapon mods equipped will grant more progress. And this quest will give you the Tungsten Bowstring volatile mod. Now, you can complete this any way you want. For this though, guys, you can literally just load into a solo battleground foothold activity and just slay out at the beginning here on normal difficulty. No need to run this on higher difficulties, as all you need are kills. This could take literally just a few runs, but it's very easy to do. Don't have to leave and then rejoin, but you could if you're looking to easy group up on enemies. Now, once these 2 quests are completed, you'll then have done all the quests related to the event, and now you can just focus on grinding the weapons and the rolls, as well as messing around with the volatile mods, which is really what I wanted to break down today. First up, we have the first mod that you're going to unlock called Shattershafts. This mod states that arrows and bolts split into several projectiles after a short distance. Now, the interesting thing here is that it says bolts, but this mod actually can only be applied to primary ammo bows, so we can't even take advantage of it on our heavy crossbows. Now, as for what it does exactly what it says. After it travels about 10 meters, your arrow would then split off into 7 projectiles, which you can see here when we shoot directly at a wall. Now, in terms of damage, this actually does increase our output when hitting all of our shots. Granted, it is a bit harder to land crits at longer distances since our arrow splits. But if you take a look here at Carl here, guys, shooting him with just a single shot from our bow here, it does 94 damage. However, when we equip Shattershaft, we increase that total damage to a whopping 273. Even though each arrow is dealing less damage, you're doing 39 damage per crit versus the original 94. Another great thing about Shattershaft is that it can help push damage instance perks to proc faster. For instance, with Jolting Feedback and Burning Ambition here, you can see that we proc Jolting and Scorch from a single shot instead of their normal shots needed. That being 3 to proc Scorch for Burning Ambition and 3 to proc Jolt on Jolting Feedback. Unless, of course, you're amplified, then it's 2. Now, in terms of Burning Ambition, we're able to get an ignition after 10 shots or 7 with Ember of Ashes equipped. Now, this also works with Kinetic Tremors on Mercury A, which allows us to proc our Tremors in a single shot. Now, up next, we have Tungsten Bowstring. Now, this one is very interesting. The mod says that it deals increased damage at the cost of draw time and handling. Releases an element of explosion matching this weapon when fully drawn. Kinetic weapons release a burst matching your equipped super. Now, what this basically does is that it turns whatever bow you put on into a legendary Leviathan's Breath. At base, as stated before, this Fortunate Star deals 94 damage per crit. But when we equip this Tungsten Bowstring Mod, that damage increases to 168 with an additional 149 damage from the elemental explosion for a total of 317 damage, which is about a 237% increase over base. The other great part about this mod is that yes, we can put this on our crossbows. At base, Submersion with explosive bolts here can deal 319 damage with an additional 389 damage from the explosion for a total of 708 damage. Now, with Tungsten equipped, this gets increased to 414 damage per crit, along with the explosion damage of 700 for a whopping total of 1,114 damage. It's pretty crazy, guys. No, it's not the 237% increase that you would see on your primary weapons, but still a 57% buff, which is greatly appreciated. Now, the one downside here is that the draw time decreases, but I think it's pretty worth it here, especially in the case of our crossbows. Another reason why this mod is pretty solid is the fact that the explosion can help us proc other perks that require damage instances. So for example, we have our bow here, Mercury A, which is a kinetic weapon that can roll with kinetic tremors. Normally it takes 2 bow shots to proc the tremors, but with Tungsten Bowstring equipped, we can then proc our tremors in a single shot. Or take this bow with Jolting Feedback with Tungsten equipped. We can proc Jolting Feedback in 2 shots instead of 3. Now, another great thing about this mod is that when using this in PvP, you can get some very satisfying one-taps in the new hardware mode. And at least in our testing, it wasn't just Mercury A that had the ability to do this. Granted, Mercury A with Tungsten does allow you to do one-shot body shots at full draw, which is pretty crazy. Definitely try this mod out, not just in PvE, but also in PvP. Now, lastly, we have the mod Jumpshot, which states that drawing this weapon while in midair triggers increased damage, faster draw time, improved target acquisition, and dramatically faster movement speed for a short time or until you touch the ground. This effect is activated once per jump and becomes available again after a moment on the ground. Now, this can only be equipped on our primary ammo bows, just like Shattershafts, but don't let that steer you away from using this. In terms of the damage increase you get while using this, at base, just like before, we're dealing 94 damage per crit with Fortunate Star. But with Jumpshot equipped and in the air, we're dealing 177 damage per crit, which is about an 88.3% increase over base. Now, it's pretty nice, but the unique part of the mod is actually that movement speed bump, as you can actually bow skate with this. Yeah, it's a thing, man. At least for the next week, you can bow skate. You can see right here, guys, when you jump in the air and then you draw your bowstring, we actually get some forward movement based on where our input is situated during the drawing of the bow. You can think a troll is a bit to land some pretty cool shots, along with using it as some new movement tech for the week. It almost feels like you're being pulled by a grapple or something for a bit, which makes me wonder, Bungie, what's the plan long long-term with this? Or like, are we going to include this in a subclass kit at some point? Now, you may be wondering, what is the synergy here with Oathkeepers? I will say there is a bit of synergy to be had here, but probably not as much as you all would want. For Tungsten, for instance, we do get a damage buff from Adamantine Brace, but it only affects our arrow itself, not the explosion. So again, at base, it was dealing 168 damage to the crits, and then an additional 149 damage from the explosion. When we fully proc Adamantine Brace, that increases our crit damage to 450, but our explosion stays the same at 149. Still an increase to 599, but yeah, it would have been nice if it applied to both. Jumpshot also works with Adamantine Brace, but in terms of how Oathkeeper works, it's a bit harder to pull off as you need to proc Jumpshot and also get a full draw in the air before you touch the ground, which can be a bit difficult. If you do pull this off though, you can increase your crit damage up to 475. Lastly, we have Shattershafts. And even though this splits off into multiple arrow-line projectiles, receive the Adamantine Brace buff. Super unfortunate. Now, what about Hierarchy? I know some of you probably forgot this exotic even existed. Now, the two that we originally thought would be able to take advantage of this the easiest would have been Tungsten and Shattershafts on paper. But for Tungsten, sadly, there was no synergy with the explosion. I don't know, maybe I was hoping for like an extra projectile, having the ability to create more than one explosion, but that was not the case. You can see here that we still deal the same amount of damage, just slightly higher at 151 versus 149. Kind of a bummer there. But where Tungsten drops the ball, Shattershaft picks it back up. You can see here that without Shattershaft equipped, when shooting through a guidance ring, we deal 94 damage per crit, and then 2 more instances of 47 damage from the seeking projectiles. However, when we equip Shattershaft and shoot through the guidance ring, we now deal 7 instances of 22 damage, along with 14 instances of 47 damage. This brings us to a total damage of 812 for a single shot. That's a whopping 197% increase in damage over the base Shattershaft damage. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there are so many damage numbers that pop up, it's hard to keep track of them all. But this was the type of synergy I was hoping for. And yes, Shattershaft and Guidance Ring provide it. Now, there's one final thing we wanted to mention about Arms Week, and that's the fact that there is currently a challenge going on called the Dark Age Hunt. The goal of this is to complete a run of Warlord's Ruin solo with a medieval loadout. That being a loadout with only bows, glaives, and swords, just like the new Crucible mode. Now, you can swap between different versions of these weapon types, but you cannot deal damage with anything else. And this must be completed in a single sitting, or else the run is voided. No going to orbits. You are allowed to use things like sword skating, but you're not allowed to go out of bounds or skip any of the encounters or the traversal sections. Now, if you're able to complete this challenge, you'll be able to claim the Fallen Torches emblem that you see right here. You have until February the 3rd at reset, so good luck to all of you. Guys, that is your Arms Week quest for this week. Let me know in the comments below what you think. We'll be putting out reviews for each of these weapons, as they actually have some pretty interesting roles. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.